Right, the transfer window officially opens tomorrow. If you're watching this at the time of me posting, if you're watching it the day after me posting, it's already open. But we've already made one signing before the transfer window opens, which is weird. We've got a second one about to be made, potentially over the next couple of days, apparently. And then there's a third one. Rumours are starting to pick up. This is all a bit strange for me because I don't know if this is normal for other clubs. Hasn't been normal for us because it's looking a bit like we have a plan and that we might be organised, which is very strange. But the thing is, as positive as that sounds, having a plan, being organised, as positive as all that sounds, it might all... There's one major caveat that might just fuck it all up. Let's not waste any time. Let's just get started. Let's get into talking about these signings. So as I said, we've got one already done. A second over the next sort of few days is looking like it will be done. And then a third that rumours are starting to pick up. I'm going to start talking about the first one and the third one, simply because they're both in the same position. So it seems pretty much universally accepted at Newcastle at the moment that Nick Pope cannot continue as number one, which is why we've gone out and signed Jewen, I think he's called. I think I can say his name correctly now. Except the thing is, he's not actually Nick Pope's replacement. He's just a goalkeeper. But for now, he's not Nick Pope's replacement because he's like 19 or 20. I can't remember how old he is. He's young. He is too young to be a starting Premier League goalkeeper for now, which is why over the past few days, reports have started to pick up about what everyone sort of already knew was likely to happen again for the third year running. Reports have started to pick up about James Trafford to Newcastle. And the reason I'm talking about this, even though it is just a rumour, is because it's something that I predicted in my pre-summer transfer prediction preview thing. When I predicted what I thought was going to happen this summer, that was one of the things I was most sort of like dead certain on. This is no major flex on my part because, as I said, it's been going on for 3 years now. Like, it's almost got to the point where it's like, it's almost the Hamza Chowdhury meme where, like, if this doesn't happen this year, it has become a meme and I'm not putting any hope in it anymore. Like, it has just become this meme of this guy that we consistently get linked with and will never actually happen. But for this year, this is the last time I'm having a little bit of hope because, as I said, we are looking a bit more organised. It is quite well reported that he was pretty dead set on coming to Newcastle. And this sort of brings me into some of my thoughts on this whole James Trafford deal, because I have two major thoughts on it. The second of which I'll sort of be able to relay to you a little bit of why I'm sort of starting to think that this is going to happen. But the first thought I have is that I think there's a lot of misinformed people commenting on a lot of these reports and links and stuff about James Trafford that just seem to have it all wrong. A lot of people commenting saying, oh, well, he made his bed, so he needs to lie in it. You know, he chose City over us, so we don't want him, all that kind of stuff. And like, that simply just didn't happen. Like, I'm not claiming to be James Trafford's best mate. I don't know the guy. Obviously, if you read all the reports of everything that came out about the James Trafford deal, it isn't a case of he just went to City and chose them over us. It's a case of he actually didn't have a choice. What essentially happened is Man City had a clause in his contract at Burnley where, similar to what Real Madrid have in Victor Munoz's contract, which I'm going to talk about later in the video because some new stuff has come out about that today, but Man City had a clause in James Trafford's contract at Burnley where if Burnley accepted a bid from someone for James Trafford, they then had to notify Man City, and then Man City then had the option to activate a buyback clause to match the bid that had been accepted, and they would have first dibs on James Trafford. Now, for most people, that's enough. For most people, that's like, right, okay, fair enough. They had the clause in, there's nothing he could do about it. Some people, though, will say, oh, well, he could have kicked up a fuss and tried to force a move through to us. No. First of all, that wouldn't be a good look on him as a professional to do that. Second of all, I don't think he was particularly too unhappy about going to City because at the time, Donnarumma wasn't there. So it looked very much like, and I think he was promised that he would be the first choice goalkeeper. And then obviously Donnarumma became available. And then I think City were kind of just opportunists on that one. And that's what kind of fucked Trafford. But at the time for Trafford, when he was at Burnley, it was a case of Newcastle are in for me. Oh yeah, I really want to go there. I'm telling everyone I want to go there. You had that comment from Nick Pope on his Instagram where like it seemed pretty dead set that he was coming to Newcastle. And then City decided, actually, no, we want him. We have dibs on him. So they came in. And I think at that point, because he didn't have a choice, he was probably like, look, well, I did want to go to Newcastle, but I mean, City's not a bad alternative, is it? Like, I've already been to City. I've already got relationships with people. You know, I'm probably going to have a great chance of winning trophies, get paid more. Like, he's not going to kick up a fuss to come to Newcastle over City when he's being told he's going to be the first choice goalkeeper. It simply just is not true that he chose City over Newcastle. He just wasn't going to kick up a fuss about the idea of going to City, because why would you? At least that was the situation at the time at City, but then obviously Donnarumma signed and that kind of changed the whole picture. Which sort of brings me a little bit onto my second point, because we know really that James Trafford isn't happy at Man City. He isn't happy being second string to Donnarumma. And what I find quite interesting about this is that we as Newcastle fans, we know that, you know, we're in for a player. We know, like, more so than any other times that we've seen apparently players being unhappy, we actually know James Trafford is unhappy, because he came out in a pretty explosive interview earlier in the season and sort of made it pretty clear that he's not happy.
Chance to get some games?
Yeah, they're obviously nice. It wasn't what I expected coming into the season, and I tried to guard against this situation happening, but it's the reality, and I know every time I play that I've got to give it my best shot and try and win and try and improve. So yeah, that's the current situation I'm in.
Which, when you think about how this summer and last summer have gone so far for us, why are we like being the bigger person here? I don't understand. Because as I said, James Trafford is actually unhappy at Man City. That's not like a question. We actually know that to be the case.
And obviously hasn't been what, like, the best possible outcome, but I've just tried to either improve every day and just try and stay positive, try and just stay happy, because throughout the year it's been such a big learning experience.
There is nothing that has come out at any point from Lewis Hall publicly about him being unhappy, yet Man United fans are consistently going on as if he is unhappy and trying to put pressure on the player to move. Not only that, cast your mind back to the day Sandro Tonali arrived in Newcastle. From the moment he got off the plane, oh, he's miserable. He don't want to be there at all. And since then, regardless of how many times he's come out and said he loves being here, he loves the area, he loves how the fans welcomed him, he feels like he owes them so much, regardless of all that, hates it, hates being there, miserable, can't stand it. And despite neither of them, as I said, having anything public at any point about either of them being unhappy, it's been basically fucking hashtag free Tonali and hashtag free Hall all fucking summer so far. Essentially just to put pressure on us because these clubs feel entitled to be able to get our players on the cheap. Yet we're sat here in a situation where over the past few days I've read articles that say James Trafford has told City he wants to leave. He's changed his agent and wants to come to Newcastle. And obviously it's no secret when you look at the last few years, but apparently we want to sign James Trafford. So the James Trafford situation for us is what Man United fans think the situation is with Lewis Hall. It actually is that for us, yet we're not on social media with hashtag free Trafford. And I think at this point, I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to get sick of taking the fucking moral high ground, because we're sat here in a situation now where the only reason this Trafford deal might not happen is because Man City are holding out for too much. Whereas if we were using these dickhead tactics, using the media, using all our fans on social media with fucking hashtag free Trafford and all these articles about how miserable he is at Man City, maybe that would put enough pressure on Man City to actually drop his price. And what I'm essentially saying here is, why do we have to be the good guys that aren't doing this and then getting fucked over by the teams that are doing this? But anyway, similar to Man City's deal that they had with Burnley over Trafford, the next signing that we're trying to make, there's a similar thing in place there, apparently. So the thing apparently that's came out today that's apparently holding up this deal for Victor Munoz, the second signing that we are potentially making, potentially before the transfer window, but this summer, the second signing we're making this summer, the thing that's holding him up is the fact that Madrid have a buyback clause on him. Now, what's apparently come out today in them kind of negotiations from the sounds of things is that it sounds very much like Madrid have essentially said, you can sign him, but we want a buyback clause in the deal with you. Otherwise, we are going to activate it now and then you won't be able to sign him. Now, a lot of people have seen these reports and then a lot of people are commenting like, oh, as if we're letting them do that, like as if we're just going to let them buy and back off us in a year. I don't think that's what the buyback clause is. I think it's, from the sounds of things, it sounds like it's going to be very similar to what Man City's was with Trafford. And the reason for that is because Madrid are apparently worried, and this came out a few days ago now, so this has been news for quite a while. Apparently Madrid are worried that we made a deal when we sold Gordon to Barcelona. They're worried that we made a deal that we would take Munoz on for a year to develop him, and then we would sell him to Barcelona in a year's time. And the reason they think this is because Victor Munoz just changed his agent to Juanma Lopez, I think he's called, and he has a strong relationship with Deco, Barcelona's sporting director. So essentially what they've done is they've just put a clause in to make sure that if we do develop him into a special talent, we can't then sell him to Barcelona like we just have Anthony Gordon. Because the way it is with Madrid and Barcelona, it's a case of they might not necessarily want the player, but they don't want fucking Barcelona to have him. I can imagine the way that negotiation will have probably went, though, is that Madrid will have said, we don't really want you to sign him at the moment because we think you've got a deal to sell him to Barcelona in a year's time. We'll have said, no, why the fuck would we do that? We don't want to sign a player who's 22, train him up for a year, and then sell him on. Like, we might have changed our model to become a bit like Brighton now, but we still actually want to win things. We don't just want to develop a player and then sell him on a year later. And then Madrid will have just been like, well, can we just put a clause in to make sure that doesn't happen? We'll have just been like, yeah, sure, because we hadn't planned on doing that anyway. And that should hopefully be the final sort of stumbling block for getting that deal done. So I think from the sounds of things, it'll be done. And this, I'm not in the know of any kind. I've said this a billion times. I don't fucking know. I'm just going off what I've read. It seems like that'll be done in the next few days. So as you can see from all that, so far things are looking very proactive, very organised. Looks like we have a plan. But as I said at the start, as much as everything looks very positive with all that, there's one thing that could just fuck it all up. And I touched briefly on this on my last video, because my last video was talking about this sort of change in the recruitment structure. And what I said in the last video is that this change in the recruitment structure, we've gone from Premier League proven to more young foreign prospects. And that's obviously very exciting to see that we're going to sign all these players and we're like, oh, which ones are going to hit, which ones aren't. It's like a bit of a gamble. Who's going to turn into the next Eden Hazard? Who's going to turn into the next Florian Thauvin? And you see, the problem with this whole new recruitment strategy is that, yes, that recruitment strategy seems great, but we're not particularly aligned as a club to be able to do that, because our manager, Eddie Howe, and this is what I said in the last video, has only ever given competitive appearances to 4, I said 3 in the last video, I got it wrong, it's 4 players under the age of 23 from a foreign league in his entire career. I think it's 4. I did a bit of digging, I couldn't find any more than 4. If anyone can find any more than 4, let me know and I'll post a tweet or something saying it's 5 or whatever. But I couldn't find any more than 4 players from foreign leagues that were signed under 23 that he's given a competitive appearance to. So basically, our new recruitment strategy of signing young potential from foreign leagues and developing them into players that we can sell on for more or use them to help us, you know, potentially win things or whatever, it doesn't seem like we have the best man in charge for doing that. Like, over the course of his career, as you can imagine, he has signed a lot of players, and only 4 of them, of I don't know how many, but it's a lot of players, only 4 of them are under 23 from a foreign league that he gave a competitive appearance to. Like, it's pretty safe to say that that recruitment strategy that we've now put in place isn't particularly, from the evidence that we have, isn't particularly Eddie Howe's strength. So when I say all this planning and organisation and everything, you know, looking proactive, that all looks very exciting. I do have some question marks over how organised and how planned we are when the man in charge of it all doesn't really have much experience delivering a plan. Like, the way I'm kind of looking at this right now is, if we didn't have a manager right now and we were then going out to hire someone to deliver with this current recruitment strategy that we're now switching to, you would look at the CVs of everyone who's applying for it. I don't think Eddie Howe would be the top of that list, because you'd be like, right, when have you ever delivered with this kind of framework? He hasn't really. This is the equivalent of opening up a beauty salon and then interviewing a load of people and being like, I like that guy. He managed a farm. Like, the manager of the farm, he has his skills. I'm sure he ran that farm really, really well. Probably doesn't really translate too much to running a beauty salon. So this is why, as I was saying, in terms of like planning and being organised and being proactive and being sort of ahead of the game, yeah, it might seem a little bit like we are with this new recruitment strategy, but how organised are we here? Only time will tell. Hopefully Eddie Howe can do what he did with Lewis Hall, with Tino, with Bruno, Isak, Botman, with all these. Hopefully he can do that with these young foreign potential players. But as I said, there's not really much of a body of evidence over the course of his career that he can deliver with that recruitment strategy. So yeah, this season is going to be a bit of a nobody knows what the fuck's going to happen. And I, for one, would not want to be the bookies who have to come up with odds for how Newcastle season's going to go, like the odds of whether we finish in a top 6 or get relegated, because honestly, could go either fucking way. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm curious to know whether you think Eddie Howe can deliver with this new recruitment strategy that we apparently are switching towards. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed the video, please remember to like, hype, subscribe, all the stuff that helps the channel grow, share it with people, whatever else you can do to help. And that is all the noise for this one. Until the next one.